Oh. Anyway, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We can take just a minute, think about what we're gonna do tonight. Thank you. Kevin, if you'd like to call the roll.
Yes, Mayor Sean Reardon. City Council President Ed Cameron.
Here.
James Connolly,
Here.
Karen Cullinane,
Here.
Kristen Donahue,
Here.
Gary Gorski. Christian Hansen,
Here.
Sarah Holden. Caroline McCarthy. Stephen Moore.
Here.
Sarah Spalding,
Here.
Madeline Whitten.
Here.
All right, and now I guess we will have public comment. All right. Any public comment from anybody in the public? I think you're later on, you're on the business
Yes.
list.
You're an official guest.
The public comment's limited to 2 minutes, so. Nobody's online? Okay. So. We have the previous minutes to approve, and I guess we've now figured out who was missing in what you sent out.
Yes, Gary made a few recommendations, including making sure that I attributed the question to Kristen Donahue appropriately. And I've pretty much made all the corrections that Gary recommended.
I had one comment, maybe Gary found that. Under the approval of the meeting minutes, you have Mr. Holden seconding them.
Oh, it says, Gary put it as Ms. Holden seconded, so that was already corrected. Yeah. Yeah, he caught that.
So I'll move to accept the minutes. Second,
Second. There's,
any discussion?
I'm gonna vote president because I wasn't.
Sure. Everybody in favor?
Uh,
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Present.
Next meeting dates are April 16th, 2025. Then we have some old business about security cameras.
there is nothing new to report on that
Okay, that's
discussion
good.
yet.
And then for new business, Mr. Russell is here.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
James, if you could just bring your chair up a little bit so the owl can see you and hear you.
You're gonna be memorialized.
I know.
He's right into that.
Terrific. I need to recuse myself from this,
Oh,
because my wife is the applicant.
for the second item.
Oh, that's right, this is.
Yes,
never mind.
this is something, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, terrific. Oh, this is about
yes,
the,
don't take it out on.
the rad for the
Yeah.
zoning portraits?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Right
not
to
because we
recuse
have
myself.
no public.
Oh, okay.
Just distracted.
Not looking at any
Gotcha.
public commenters.
Makes sense.
If you want it back.
No.
I
Okay.
always thought it was entertaining, but they said, no, it's distracted. We'll do it.
Well, I want to thank James Russell for coming. He is very willing to address your concerns regarding the lack of a better word, packaging and transportation and displaying of the Tracy portrait. You had expressed concern that your approval was pending an understanding of, how the painting was going to be cared for. So I asked James to come and to kind of give you an idea from his expertise. And he also prepared some paperwork that you could have for your own review, just so that you are aware of the procedures and et cetera.
Great. Can I, do you have a few minutes to put it into a broader context?
Yes.
Great. So thanks very much for seeing me. Appreciate it. Been looking forward to partnering with the library for some time. In addition to this, we're going to be doing some kids programs down in the lawn, which is going to be great. And I think this concept of partnership with any number of programs, whether it's Boys and Girls Club, Newbury, et cetera, is just great. I think it's a great way to get 1 and 1 is equal to 3. There's a leveraging factor there, and certainly working as far as I'm concerned. I think it's important to do if you're a community museum. So just to put this in context, there was a grant which was with the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, authored primarily by Bethany at Museum of Old Newbury, and myself. Bethany is the fiscal agent for 60 something thousand that we got, and we'd asked for 100, we got something like 60, 65. And that breaks down to a whole tranche of community-related activities. Some of you may be looking at the programs, which are at the lectures, which are all selling out. There was supposed to be one at our place tomorrow night, but we moved it to St. Paul's only because twice the number of people who wanted to come are showing up, and that's been the case for. As a matter of fact, we were talking with the firehouse and said, why don't we launch it there? Because that's a great way to bring in the firehouse, Museum of Newbury, us, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to move this around, and there's a whole slew of lectures dialing up. Essentially, it's called Road to Revolution, where it's just 1970, it's just 1775 period and before. Those lectures are being well received. Another component to the grant is a parade on June 28th. We've got a number of reenactor groups for that parade. That's going to be in concert with the city. We're very grateful for the mayor and the support. And we'll be stopping in front of the library to shoot off muskets. So, and I know you're planning, your education team is planning on doing something somehow to participate there. And it's the parade route hasn't been defined absolutely, but it's probably going to go Frog Pond, come on down here, State Street, something in Market Square. And we're hoping that Governor Healy will be here. She's already expressed interest, significant interest. So as long as her date is clear, she'll be here. So I think that'd be a great event to participate in. You can also participate in parade. A third component is an exhibit. It's going to take place at the Custom House. It could take place elsewhere. There's little room at the Museum of Old Newbury to do it. And it was being led initially by our volunteer curator, Kevin McDonald. You may have read in the newspaper that he passed away at 55. And it is a major blow to the Newburyport history, because he was not only extremely knowledgeable in our area of pursuit, but also he was helping any number of organizations, and for instance, working with Amanda Moore in the restoration of the story behind Reverend Spring, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we're forging ahead. We've got most of the intellectual material documented prior to his passing, which was last week, and we've got the preparatory nature of this exhibit to pull together, which is probably going to have, I mean, quick math and probably a little bit of exaggeration on it just by the donors, but probably about $150,000 worth of art being donated to this exhibit from people far and wide, whether it's Spanish cannon made of bronze, whether it's large privateers, models of privateers, which have got value of about 35 to 40,000, whether it's Scrimshaw's teeth with George Washington on it, each worth about 30,000 a piece, to items from the Museum of Old Newbury, which are coming, and a bunch of other items which haven't been viewed by the public, period. Which will help flesh out the story of Newburyport and the Road to Revolution. And a key to it is your Nat Tracy portrait. And why is that important? When you come to a museum, you expect to see original, authentic artwork, and it drives me nuts that we have prints and frames that anybody could get. You can get that anywhere, see it anywhere where you want to see it. You want to see the original. When you go to the Vatican, you want to see the Sistine Chapel, and you want to see the Mona Lisa, you see the Mona Lisa at the Louvre, you don't see a cheap copy. So I'm very appreciative that you're open to this. In terms of, I mean, I would add, I know you're interested in moving a portrait from here to there. It's fairly straightforward. We inspect it, we white glove it, we wrap it. There's a fairly detailed procedure that our collection manager put together. We'll wrap it and put it into a cardboard box. It tends to travel flat. It's just best to distribute the weight load as you go over potholes. But then I just wanted to talk a little bit about what else we're doing in terms of protection, because we'd like it for a period of time, which we still need to discuss. The climate control, we've been looking at climate in that particular room now for the better part of a year. So we've got a year-long readings on humidity and also temperature of the space. We installed some really innovative gel that goes on windows, which actually reflects solar gain. Last summer, I put my hands next to the window when it was 95 degrees and it was about 75 on the other side of the glass, which is amazing. You know, that blue tint that's on the John Hancock building, well, it's a step down from that we could have found that. I'm not sure the Historic Commission would have appreciated blue tinted windows in the custom house, but nonetheless, climate is important, particularly with the oil boiling, even though it's got a lot of plasticity to it, in the sense that canvases tend to breathe a lot better than paper. So that's one thing. We'll hang it with security hangers, which are essentially like lobster pots. Once the wire goes in, it's difficult to pull out without pulling out the whole, without pulling out the nails or screws or whatever it's into. Thirdly, it's not going to be in direct sunlight, so there's no worry about ultraviolet light because of a variety of barriers to that. And then fourthly, when it comes to getting close to it, we'll have some sort of a buffer underneath it just so people don't get too close. We don't have security cameras in that particular room. Something that we're looking into, like an Arlo system, would be an affordable system for us. Which is something that we could add, and we may actually want to add it, just given the value of the learning objects which are coming. I'm going to run the show for 2 years, but it's going to change because I'm not getting all the loaned objects for 2 years. Some of the items are for 3 months. I mean, I would like your portrait for as long as you're willing to loan it to us, but. You know, minimally, I would say if we opened the show, I just pushed it back because of the death of our curator. I pushed it back to May 30th to open, but let's say 6 months, which runs it through the winter season. So that not too many people are going to see it January through May, because that would be a shorter period. That would be a low visitation time for us. It's free admission to come to the museum. We may modulate that this summer, just given the market uncertainties. We're beginning to rebalance our budget, just reflecting some concerns that we're hearing from sponsors. But at the moment, it's free admission, not just to Newburyport residents, but everybody. And we're hoping that it's not just an elderly cohort that sees this, because we're opening a discovery center, which is all towards kids. And so there's going to be a wider a group of people coming, which is going to be a terrific way for us to create really a paradigm shift at the museum, which I think is going to be good for everybody. So that's it. Any
I think the only question is, little kids are going through there. How separate is it going to be? They can't just walk up and touch the picture.
Yeah, that's true of a lot of the work. I mean, we could put a plexi shield in front of this. You see that in front of some paintings.
Well, I've seen that happen at the Museum of Fine Arts.
Oh.
Kids do that stuff.
It happened to our Gilbert Stewart
Yeah.
not long ago. I mean, the truthful answer to that is that's very difficult to police, even when you have a security guard in the room. There are ways to protect against that. You can get sensors which sense motion close to a painting and it sends off a beep. That's pretty good. Barriers help, but they can be visually intrusive. You know, if you've got a large painting, you've got a metal barrier in front of it, it doesn't do much for viewing. But that's really your proclivity. So it's easier with three-dimensional objects because we can put them in vitrines, and it's a little harder with canvases, particularly larger canvases, because that's a big piece of plexi which has to be secured. But that's a possibility. I think there's two sets of values to your painting. One is emotional and community value, which is priceless. There's only one of these and you're not going to get replaced. If you put it in the market, it's probably got some number like 10 to 20 grand. Just given the artist's record of other pieces downsized, so.
So how high on the wall this thing be? And
Well, usually you hang these things, 56 on center or something like that. I mean, there's been some movement in that regard because that tends to be a male centric way to look at paintings, and women are on average shorter, so you try to pick a slightly lower amount and hit her in the middle. So it's not that big a painting, 32 by 40, give or take. So that's not a tremendously big painting. So we're not talking about it hanging on the floor. So I mean, there's 2 feet below average height, right? So it's probably about here. But do keep in mind that we're not talking about a gazillion kids through here. I mean, I hope that we're able to kick it up to about 15,000 people coming to the museum. We went up from 8,000 in 23 to 12, to. What number were we at? I should know. 12,000, I think we were in 24, which is a great number, and I'm hoping to get that by means of advertising, of which we hope to do quite a bit of advertising around this. Probably allocating upwards of about $6,000-7,000 of the grant funds towards getting the word out. So I think it's going to be good for the city as a whole, because I think people will want to come here to see what's happening. But if you've got concerns around it, I think stanchions are a pretty good and inexpensive way to protect against it.
You're gonna have a little history of who within Tracy.
Oh, there's a whole section on this. Oh, yes, he's dominant in the story. There aren't that many superlative, but there are lots of interesting stories, but it's hard to bring it up to a national scale with too many of them. And so, Tracy's relationship with Washington, the fact that Washington wrote to him directly, particularly with the Quebec expedition, which brings up the controversial figure of Benedict Arnold and the Quebec expedition. But there was a letter that went from Washington, which we don't have, to say you got to outfit this guy and give him as many vessels as he wants. I mean, the fact that he put patriotism over profits, to me, is a heck of a story. And you can quantify that in a loss of, he starts the revolution with 100-something vessels, and he ends it as a pauper and dies at 44. So it's a remarkable story of a loser in the revolution, but a winner because of what he did and how selfless he was for it. And of course, the fact that his dad was from Ireland is also just fine.
Is he the one who sent his daughter off to Maine to avoid dating?
Not sure about this. This is where Kevin would be. This is where we have an intellectual hold, right? So, yeah. Which, by the way, is something we should also talk about just in terms of associations with the library, because you've got the ability to do some of this deep archival research, and why duplicate those particular functions in a town with limited philanthropic resources, right? So.
The story was he was seriously dating John Quincy Adams. She was. And he was over at the tavern drinking a lot. They got upset and sent her off to Maine. And then he went to Boston. But I heard, which I don't know where that came from. I was like, on his deathbed, he was dying. Having not seen this girl in years. It's the last days of his life. He's in his deathbed calling her her name. I don't know if that's apocryphal, if that's actually written down somewhere. That's not to
I don't know whether that's apocryphal or accurate, but I can see what we can do on tracking it down.
Did you say the assessed value was between $10,000 and $20,000?
It's hard. The artist, it doesn't have a great auction record, and not that auction records are the only thing to track, because there's enough wealth in Newburyport now that you don't have to have an auction record, and this thing could really fly off the charts. But if you look at similar portraits that he did, you're coming in with numbers of 2,500, 5,000. But I mean, if you were to put that on the market today to sell it, there would be a lot of interest in Newburyport. There's a lot of wealth in Newburyport now that it would fetch a higher.
So is the insurance coverage covering that and more? or how does that work?
You can, that number is up to you. I'll get you a certificate of insurance. We do this repeatedly. The Fennell lens that we just got from the Coast Guard, they put a $400,000 value on it. And it didn't leave the warehouse. I mean, they had restrictions all over the place. So many restrictions that they gave us the wrong base for it. Their value on a fourth order Fennell lens that you can buy on the market for $250,000 is $400,000. And those other items that I just mentioned to you, like the rattlesnake cutaway and the cannon, et cetera, and obviously the teeth, they're certificates of insurance which are coming. And there's a very strict loan document, which is American Alliance of Museums certified. So it kind of governs that space pretty well.
And if there were any kind of damage to the painting, then how would that be remediated or resolved?
Well, it's covered by insurance for one thing.
So that would be up to you guys. Hey, we recognize there's a hole in there, or it's been scraped, or it's been. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and add it.
Yeah, that's why it's important to do an existing condition. It's like renting a car, right? I mean, you want to make sure that just was a scratch there before you rent it.
Yeah.
You want to be able to document it. So we'll take photographs of it before it leaves. You'll typically see like frames, there may be some damage there. But yes, so that would be all part and parcel of the coverage that you have.
And the last question is around, will there be an attribute to the library?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, this is a total partnership venture. It just happens to be taking place at the Custom House, but it could happen in this room for that matter. Might even be better because it's a bigger room. But the number of partners are fairly long, from the churches to individuals to any number of the nonprofit organizations. So it's not a proprietary sort of a thing. I think this is a true community presentation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think we voted to approve this last meeting. Okay.
Yes, it was contingent upon, I guess, a clarification from James so that the board could have a.
Do you think we need any further vote, or we have said?
Just leave it up to James and Kevin. Make
Uh,
sure everything's covered.
If, I mean, if the board feels confident. You know, you voted. With the caveat that there would be you would feel comfortable with how the painting was going to be. Cared for. So I guess if there's a question and you wanted to call for a vote, then that would be up to you. To kind of confirm the approval.
It's up to you. Minutes reflect that we voted on the last meeting. I can vote again if you. Someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a reconfirmatory motion to approve the loan of the painting to the Custom House Maritime Museum as described, insured and.
Great. Yeah, I'll second that. Is anybody in favor? Anybody opposed? Guess it's unanimous.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to
We
working with
will
Gavin
get-
and all you, and
Yeah.
you'll all be at the opening, and we'll figure out a date that will take off
Exactly.
your wall.
Yeah, and then we'll also include Dana in our kind of discussions, just in case she, wants to, or if you, the board feels comfortable, Dana can observe and make sure that everything's from our end
Great,
covered.
well, this is super, really appreciate the spirit of partnership. It's a lot of people will see it, I suspect not too many people see it in the reading room.
Yes, not many people see it now.
Yeah, you might want to consider reenacting the invasion of Quebec, and you get in a boat, go to
Yeah.
Maine, go up to Kennebec, or I was reading about it recently and focusing a little bit on the Newburyport connection, but was kind of interested in revolutionary military history and what a saga that was. I mean, that was unbelievable.
That's a what if in history. Because if they'd been successful, and actually taken Quebec, and the gondolas hadn't sunk, and the supplies hadn't gone, and they didn't get
It would have been the
diarrhea.
51st state a long time ago.
Everything else, exactly.
Might be in a better place.
All right. I'll leave you to the rest of the
Thank you
meeting.
very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
And then we have a request to conduct a photo shoot in the director's room.
Yes, I received a request from Amantha Moore, a member of the general maybe General Charitable Society of Newburyport. They are hoping to do a photo shoot in the director's room, having backdrop of the historical furniture, it's also a place where they used to meet and conduct business. And then also on the main conference table to have some of the items they've donated to the archives as part of just a general photo shoot that they're going to do for the Newburyport Magazine. So this is not uncommon. It's just because it's going to be going into the Newburyport Magazine, it is on the realm of a commercial photographic commercial photograph of the library or library materials. So I just bring this to your attention or bring this to you for your approval. I see no problem with it. I think it is, again, it's just more customary that I bring it to you because you have to approve of these types of things. I have no issue with the shoot or the contents of what Amantha Moore would like to have in the shoot.
So we need a vote for that, do we? Ken?
Yes.
Kevin, I'm sorry, what was the timing, especially with regard to the Tracy patient? Any comments?
I think I will be discussing with Amantha Moore to have it done sooner rather than later.
Certainly makes sense.
So that, Tracy portrait will remain or be part of the room. I'll explain that we have a time frame that she needs to do it by.
So I move to allow the pictures to be taken.
Second.
Any discussion? Everybody in favor? Anybody opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain? You can put the word in for us. We won't get it back.
I'll go home and tell her what's going on.
Do it right away. Okay, so that's done.
Okay.
And then I guess the mission, once we talk about the mission statement. Kevin?
Yes, this is, as I explained last month, what I'm going to walk you through is a very simple exercise, which I have gained some feedback already. Gary and Caroline provided some feedback on the mission statement, which I've recorded already. And but I'm going to essentially ask three questions. I'm going to give you the current mission statement so that you can hear the statement, think about it for a minute or so, and then I'm going to ask you 3 questions. The current mission statement is: the Newburyport Public Library is a community hub that inspires and empowers all to access knowledge, culture, and social connections.
Would you say that one more time?
Sure. The Newburyport Public Library is a community hub that inspires and empowers all to access knowledge, culture, and social connections. All right, the first question I'm going to ask you is, what do you like about the current statement? And it could be just simple word. You could say, I like it because it is X, or I like it because it implies the following.
So the one you just read is the current.
Correct.
I like it because it's short, and I think that helps people to grasp it. I think to make it very long, it lose meaning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Phrase and community hub is important.
Right, and I won't.
I like, everything about it. I think it's direct upfront who, what we're talking about, the Newburyport Public Library. I also like community hub as a phrase. As I don't think there's any better word than hub, and community it was important there. Inspires is uplifting. Nothing wrong with that. And empowers all. It's not just Newburyport residents, so it's anybody who uses it. And accessing knowledge, yeah, that's what a library is all about. And I think adding the culture and social connection is important too, so it's actually right on.
If I were good with words, I would come up with what I just said. But
Any other feedback on the likability of the current statement? Okay, I'll move on to the second question. What do you not like about the current statement? And I'll share the feedback that Caroline shared. She said, I'm hoping that a new mission statement can represent more explicitly the very special qualities that public libraries have. And she elaborates, the magic of people of all income levels having access to a billionaire book collection, exclamation point.
Now, the only thing I feel like I sort of wish were somewhere in the mission statement is the word book. But I feel like books are so valuable.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the word culture. There's so many different kinds of cultures. Suggest there's a right way to think, perhaps, the culture. And in fact, in this country, we've got really diverse cultures. So to me, that word's just kind of fraught with different interpretations.
I mean, to follow up, I think the idea that Caroline had brought up that struck with me again was the books, right? And I think we do offer a lot in terms of materials and collections, artwork. I think we need to discuss that and include that. So I think we benefit if we do that.
Now, both Gary and Caroline shared suggestions for a rewording of. Yeah, I can share them if you'd like, or we can just share those recommendations for the staff and Barbara and myself to do the facilitating process that she's gonna do next week. Okay. All right. Suggestion number one. Newburyport Public Library is a community hub that offers materials, resources, and space to inspire and empower all to access knowledge, explore cultural opportunities, and make social connections. Suggestion number two. Newburyport's home port for information, ideas, and community. Suggestion number three. Newburyport Public Library is a community hub that strives to maintain a robust collection of books and materials that inspire and empower all to access knowledge, culture, and social connections.
Probably not good for us to know who suggested which one, because we might be biased with their. I am too.
Those are some of the suggestions already, so.
And when you work next week to go through it, you're gonna choose one or
No, what we're gonna do next week is take the input that you've shared. Barbara's gonna integrate that into the discussion. And the brainstorming that will occur with the 4 staff members and myself. And then what we're going to come up with is some draft suggestions, much like the ones I just shared. And I will present those to the group here in April. And then you can go, well, I like this one, but could we move this to this? You know, you have an opportunity to kind of go, I like this phraseology, but I like better in that one. You know, so we can kind of work with it a little bit. And then take it back for one more, you know, brainstorming session with the staff to kind of integrate your feedback, and then come back in May with 2 to 3 kind of really worked on suggestions. Where this is, you know, taking everything that you recommended in April, plus the final recommendations from the staff to come up with these, and these are like the ones that you're going to vote on in May. You're gonna select one of the finalists in May.
I liked the mission statement as was. I do hear the concern about the collection in the book, so I think I'm more comfortable with 1 and 3. Because I feel like they retain what we originally had, but also put a little bit more emphasis on the collection.
Thank you very much.
I just be wondering about culture, we're talking, what kind of culture we're talking about? We said a culture of learning. I think that's consistent with the library, but
Yeah, I
it's
think
kind
that,
of a vague term, culture. You're gonna get culture to go to the library.
I think what, my take on the word culture there is, it's the library programs, the resources that we offer, they help those that come to experience the vast variety, the vast cultures, and what is also understood as culture, which is art, music, etc. So I think what it's saying is the library enables people to experience it. So just like the overarching culture, not just you know, in all forms. That's my understanding of why, you know, we use it, because it's often people experience culture through their experience at the library.
But I really liked 1, as you know, I liked the original, as I said, but I thought 1 was good improvement.
And is there any possibility that you stay with the original one, or is there a movement to definitely? That one?
The current one will be part of the discussion. You know, and but there is a strong desire to add a greater emphasis on the collection. Emphasizing the importance of the collection as part of our mission. So, I can't say that, yes, well, you know, it won't be, but it could be one of the finalists to choose. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? I can move on to.
Communications.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, then you're gonna give us your report.
Yes. Okay. All right, regards to the budget, the operational budget request was submitted on March 7th to Ethan Manning and the mayor. The HVAC capital improvement plan submission was submitted electronically on February 28th. Both the CIP submission and the operations budget will be discussed in the following. Well, the next steps are, I will have a budget meeting with the mayor in which we will discuss both the CIP and the operating budget. And after that meeting, that's when the mayor puts together his official proposal to city council. City council reviews that. I then also attend a city council budget session. Where city council members, I think it's in the finance subcommittee, is that correct, Ed?
Budget. and
Yeah,
finance.
budget and
Yeah, the
finance.
full council.
Yeah. But I essentially talked about the budget, answered their questions, and then in June, at the full council meeting in June, is when the budget is voted on officially. So those are the next steps. I don't have a date for the budget session with budget and finance subcommittee or committee, nor do I have a date for the full council session in June. But I'll be meeting with the mayor on the 27th. With regards to the budget, so. Any questions? Okay, all right. Moving on to library statistics. Unless there are any questions regarding the library statistics reports and charts they sent to you.
I'm just kind of just looking at the programs.
Sure.
If it's a zero attendance, do we cut them out in the future or do they? What's the process there? Because I see several here have zero attendance.
If it depends on the type of program, if it's a presenter that we brought in, we may reschedule. If it's an ongoing program, we just continue to offer it unless.
So the
yeah.
round table would be ideal.
Yes, if, and in cases, with Readers Roundtable, we continue to see pattern of low or no attendance, then the staff librarian in charge of that program will, have a discussion with department head, to determine if it's viable to continue. Unless there are any other questions regarding library statistics, I will submit this section as transmitted. Under personnel, the situation has not changed since I last discussed with you that I've been out, that the hiring of the library technician position has been paused. So we are still waiting. I'm hoping that within the next few weeks, I will get word whether or not we will be filling that position. In terms of, we've been working with the staff to rework schedules. We are currently using a temporary schedule to cover the desk coverage that position would have provided. So we are making do right now until we make a more permanent change to our schedule if we are not able to fill the position.
Kevin, is that position included in the budget?
I have asked for it to be part of the budget. It is still funded through the end of this year. So I'm looking for it to remain budgeted for
So, of the calendar year or fiscal year.
fiscal year. The position was funded as part of the fiscal operating budget that began last July. And so it was funded through the end of this fiscal year. I have asked that the funding for the position be included in the FY26 budget. We'll find out. Any other questions?
I said one question, can the library make do without that position?
I will say that it will, in the long run, will have a negative impact on our ability to do anything above maintain. And some of the things that we will have to pull back on certain things that are less of a priority. The position did provide the ability to we bring people in from other positions to cover that person's desk coverage. And when you're working at a service desk, you really can't be working on higher level things or things that require a lot of concentration. So if you're doing a lot of planning, you can't be doing a lot of planning at a service desk when you're interrupted with customer. When you're doing the task of attending to customers at the desk. So it does impact the ability to innovate, to do anything new. I'm advocating for the position to be filled. There aren't any other questions. I move on to buildings and grounds. All right, as I indicated, in the email to you, a little over a week and a half ago, the elevator project has begun. We were, initially, the estimate for its, start date was beginning of April. Thankfully, the library staff and I had engaged in the planning process starting back in December. So we had pretty much everything ready to go. We were doing some fine tuning of the modified services and how we were going to be doing some of our internal operations, but nuts and bolts ready to go. One snag, which I'm glad our bags that we ordered from LL Bean have a dual purpose. The bags were back ordered after I ordered them. And I had a nice little conversation with LL Bean about that. Because they did not notify me that they back ordered them. So I was assuming they were coming. They're coming at the end of April. So their secondary, their primary purpose will be for outreach, which is what we had as the this purpose that they were going to have for the future. What we did in place of the LL Bean bags was we contacted libraries throughout the consortium, and a couple libraries gave us their book club kit bags, which were the exact same type of bag, the real sturdy canvas bags. So we have, between that and a number of the cloth target bags, we have plenty of bags to get the books upstairs. We're finding that our planning for having the collaboration between DPS staff and the library staff bringing the books upstairs is working really well. At our staff meeting on Monday, there were a few things that staff recommended we might want to tweak, but not much at all. So our plans were actually really, they were very thorough and very easy to implement. And as I said to the mayor in my weekly report, we were able to pivot on a dime. And I will say we've had a few, in terms of, I'd say less than 20 patrons require modified services thus far. But we have been able to provide them. We've also provided some that we weren't expecting to, but just because it was, it was just right. Sometimes you make exceptions to do things that, not that you had planned to do. So we're working through this really well. And I've not, wish I had a little word, I have not heard anything, and that for me is a good sign from the vendor. That things, I would have heard if something was that something was wrong, or that things were going to have to be pushed back. But so far, they've been here every day, they're working, and I try not to interrupt them. Just wanted to let you know, just give you that update. From my perspective, the project is moving along and internal operations and the modified services are working well.
And in terms of communicating into the community, I saw signs in the front doors, anything appeared in the paper or? Other
There's an article in the paper.
There
Recently.
was. We sent the press release. I guess there's. And I think we were below the fold. Front page, I think. With regards to. I have to go back. It was not front and center and, it was just again, a reiteration of just the project was necessary and
What would the updated timing, is that then?
the updated timing was, when we sent the press release, that indicated the updating timing, and that it was starting like right away. There aren't any other questions. I will move on to outreach and community partnerships. Are any questions with regards to the information I sent to you? About our collaborations and outreach efforts? Right, and I will submit this section as transmitted. I'll move on to programming. Are there any questions regarding the programming report? Programming data I sent you? I will submit this section as transmitted. Moving on to the calendar section. Any questions regarding? Okay, I will submit that calendar section as transmitted. I have nothing else in my report.
Any other questions to bring before Kevin? Move to adjourn then.
Second.
Everybody in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you very much.